Hello and welcome to another edition of the Around the NFL broadcast. My name is Dan Hansis. I'm joined by heroes Greg Rosenthal, Mark Sessler. Boys, the turkey, it's in the system. Mark, you said you had an apple for Thanksgiving, so I'm sure that is...
It's in the system, too.
Yeah, that's going through the old body.
Sure.
All good, but now we have to get our focus back on football. Turkey Day, rear view.
It never left. It's going to be hard to have a better moment in this show than right before it started when Dan said, "Oh my God."
You know, it's like we're sometimes the Peter Brady character that gets a little frozen by camera, but not today. We're going to have to deliver the show.
No, yes, it is Thanksgiving weekend. Everybody's enjoying themselves, and we're going to enjoy talking all 32 teams here on the broadcast over the next 2 hours. We do it 2 minutes per team. We start with the NFC East this week. Mark, get us going on America's team.
The Dallas Cowboys, tough loss. I would just say this. Let's say a prayer for Anthony Brown. I thought, I was a youth football player that because I was small and not fast, they put me at cornerback because it's like there were 20 of those guys. But they basically taught you right away, you have to have a very short memory. We've heard that about cornerbacks a ton of times. But 4 DPI calls on Anthony Brown in this game that set up a ton of points for the Raiders. It was Deshaun Jackson. It was Zay Jones to set up the winning field goal. It's just in a tough spot. I love what he said today, though. It was just one of them days. It's like, I don't want to see this guy get in a car and, vanish into deep Mexico.
No, we don't want that.
Let's pick it up and, you got to get back next week.
I got stats. I got numbers for you, okay?
Hit me.
Anthony Brown became the first NFL player since at least 2000 to be flagged 4 times for pass interference in the same game, all on third down, resulting in 91 yards and turned into 20 Raiders points.
These camera-hungry refs. Let's start there.
Yeah, that last one that set up the game winner, I don't know about that one. I don't know if that was a good call.
Right.
I don't know if all those calls were good or not. We certainly did enjoy it. But I do appreciate Derek Carr just being aggressive because Dan Quinn kept going man coverage. That was 3rd and 18. It's easy to forget. The Cowboys were about to get the ball back in overtime. It's 3rd and 18. And Dan Quinn's trying to be a hero, going man coverage, sending some extra pressure. Didn't work.
Sometimes when you're playing that Thanksgiving game and you know more eyeballs are on it, you want to have your moment as a defensive coordinator.
Well,
I mean, he gave Anthony
selfish.
Brown
Is that what you're saying?
I'm not saying he's selfish. I'm saying it wasn't working all game. You would think maybe they would adapt, change it up, play it a little safer.
Yes. Very disappointing for the Cowboys, obviously, to lose at home. Everybody loses at home now. Thanksgiving, 0-3, the home teams went. But Dallas now, you got the idea of the first seed is starting to melt away a little bit at 7-4. There's still a lot of football to be played. But I'll look on this note. We'll leave on this note. Anthony Brown, people should know this. Before Thursday, he had been penalized just once, an illegal contact call for 5 yards in 10 games. So the man is a promising young professional.
We've all had bad
Yes.
Thanksgivings where we were the problem.
Right.
That was his Thanksgiving.
As soon as yesterday for you, Greg.
Do not go to Mexico, young man. All right, Greg, on the Giants.
I was excited this week to see what new coordinator Freddie Kitchens could do with Kadarius Toney, maybe Sterling Shepard. It doesn't sound like Kadarius Toney's playing this week, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm just saying, show us what you got, Freddie Kitchens. The whole focus, Jason Garrett losing his job this week, that was unfortunate. But not a lot of talk about Mark's old friend, Freddie Kitchens, former Around the NFL podcast guest. And he was a great guest. And remember that year where everyone was like, you know what, Freddie Kitchens, good play caller. Maybe he will be a good play
He's
caller.
kind of in that same spot where you're taking over for what was viewed as a totally inept previous play caller in Jason Garrett. When he did that in Cleveland to take over for Hugh Jackson and friends, they ran a lot of trick plays. They got kind of loose. It got him a job. I don't know if you can do that with this Giants team. They seem real tight. But let's start with, once Toney gets back in there, use him a ton. Kenny Galladay, 3 catches over the last 2 weeks. Guy costs like $45 billion. Can we maybe get him a little more active in the offense here?
They have so many problems on offense. I think it is a good situation for Freddie Kitchens. He's probably never going to get another head coaching job. Like when we interviewed him at the owners' meetings, sometimes you interview a new coach and you come out of it like, wow, that guy's going to be a great coach. I remember coming out of that being like, he's going to be, he's a great guy.
Well, I was I want to hang out with
guy.
him. I want to go hang out with him at like a barbecue or a dive bar or a picnic, but now he's doing something with a little more responsibility.
This is a great spot for him because if the Giants keep stinking, well, it wasn't really his fault anyway, but if they improve, maybe he does eventually get back into that OC chair and his career is back on track.
He's in it right now, and I thought the way Garrett misused Kadarius Toney was, to me, like, that was the ultimate fireable offense. You have this guy that just like looks like the most explosive, fun rookie I can remember, and they're barely using him in the right way. But now he's hurt again, so maybe that's why they couldn't use him before. I don't even know. They do have Saquon Barkley here playing, so let's get him going.
What happened to Saquon Barkley? Remember when he was the most exciting young running back in football?
Yeah, I remember
Injuries
4
have
years
obviously played a role in that, but I don't know. Tough situation. The Giants should be more exciting than they are. All right, Eagles. Jalen Hurts is on a star trajectory. I bet you didn't see that coming. Like, the Eagles, they're in that group that didn't see that coming, because you got the vibe entering this season.
A month ago, we didn't see it coming.
Even with the Deshaun Watson sweepstakes, if you want to call it that they kept coming out or kept coming up in the reporting. And guess what? Like, meanwhile, Jalen Hurts is putting up big numbers every week. He's moving this offense. He's getting better as the season goes along. This is his first season as a starter. He is a young man. He started a handful of games last year. So I can't see this season as anything else other than a success for Philadelphia if he continues on this arc through the rest of the season.
I'm with you, and I think they could make the playoffs with this offensive line, this running game. I actually don't think his level of play has changed that much throughout the course of the season. He's certainly cut down on some of the errors. I just think their offense and their philosophy has changed, and they're healthier up front. I don't know if he's going to be a superstar. I do know he's.
But he doesn't have to be a superstar.
No, I do know he's a starting quarterback. I mean, and that's like, at worst, he's a mid-level starting quarterback right now. That's pretty exciting.
I mean, from a month ago, to your point, where Philly talk radio was like burning up at the seams. I mean, they were the 4th heaviest passing team in the league, and it wasn't working. So, I mean, if anything, Nick Sirianni, who's ridden the wave up and down, I give the whole coaching staff points for just shifting their philosophy. You see teams do this once in a while. You also see teams that refuse to do it, and they stay who they are. They've changed entirely. Jalen Hurts is the most successful rusher for any rusher over 50 yards, 50 attempts right now in the season. I mean, he's like the 8th leading rusher in the league. He's dangerous. They're using him to his strengths. So, I mean, they're very watchable, and they're a threat in the East.
Right. He doesn't need to be a superstar, but if he can develop into like a top 10 to 15 quarterback even, you could win with that. You could build around that, and he's cheap he's a second-round pick, correct? So he's not on a huge contract. They are set up very well, the Eagles.
They also have 3 first-round draft picks if Carson Wentz isn't abducted by aliens.
I'm back on the Howie Roseman train. Let's go.
All right, let's talk Washington football team. Let's talk another quarterback, Taylor Heineke. He's not afraid of anything. I like watching Taylor Heineke play because he's not the most talented guy on the field. He's not anyone's version of, I'm going to go get my Taylor Heineke jersey at Modell's Sporting Goods. Like, that's not really, I don't even know if Modell's is a thing anymore. But
what free pop from Modell's? Like, the Marines are gone and Modell's
gotta go to Mo's. But you just got to look at this guy. He plays, it's a cliche, but it's true. He plays with a chip on his shoulder. Being able to beat a Panthers team that cut him at the end of training camp 2 years ago and do that to them. This man lives for that. That's a competitor. Fun to root for those guys.
I love emerging players like this in the season. And with these clips we're watching, it's not of his throws. It's just the emotion, the man that he is. I love this guy. I have to wonder if almost like, where has Ryan Fitzpatrick, who we've not seen in months, did he suck the DNA blood out of Ryan Fitzpatrick like a vampire? Because he has that Fitzmagic energy to him.
Well, Fitzpatrick was a 7th-round pick out of Harvard, overlooked, always played with a chip on his shoulder. They're kind of cut out of the same cloth. They're not the same guy, obviously, but I don't think it's a coincidence.
Where did Heineke go? Old Dominion. I mean, that's easier to get in than Harvard, so.
Right.
Just saying.
Well, says you.
Heineke gets a big spotlight, though. Monday Night Football. Probably not the game that ESPN executives were hoping it would be. Seahawks, Washington, 2 teams just barely trying to stay alive. But you go out play Russell Wilson, and he's played better than Russell Wilson certainly over the last 2 weeks. Heineke's played better than just about everyone over the last 2 weeks. He's been great for 2 weeks. You do that on a national stage like this. This is a big little moment for Taylor Heineke.
All right.
I'm excited.
So we're all kind of in.
I mean, he's kind of a bad boy, too. Did you see all those tats on the arm?
Like that.
When I got the tat on the arm,
yes,
you were just like, ooh, you're a bad boy.
I was like,
now.
Oh, my
Heineke's
gosh.
got a lot.
Greg, you're a bad boy for a lot of reasons beyond just the tattoo, with what we know about Greg.
People should know, remember when it came out that Ben Affleck had the full back tattoo? And everybody like, what is this middle-aged man doing? Greg has the same tattoo.
got it.
He saw Affleck's back tattoo.
I have the same kind of like midsection roll.
His is
that he had
of
in
Ben
that
Affleck,
picture,
though,
too.
which was slightly a concerning choice.
All right, the NFC East is in the rear view, but we are just getting going here on the broadcast. Up next, the NFC North. Oh, my goodness. Greg, 4 teams in this division, all of them trying their best. One has already lost, but one has won.
Love this division.
Up next on the broadcast. Cool stats, bro. Welcome back to the broadcast. Oh, my goodness, yes. NFC East done. Up next, the NFC North. And, Greg, get us going with the leaders of the division, the Packers.
I know the Packers lost last week, but when I watched that Aaron Rodgers performance against the Vikings, I thought, like, was this a warning to the rest of the NFC? I've been talking about Aaron Rodgers, game manager all season. Because I think he's in the best way possible, like Tom Brady, like Drew Brees. The team around him isn't great. He's really managing them winning games, but it hasn't been the old Aaron Rodgers. That was the old Aaron Rodgers. He had about 5 throws in this game that were absolutely outrageous, that very few humans that have ever walked the earth could do. And I'm thinking, is this guy got to go on an MVP run down the stretch? Like, it's not too late.
Hopefully his body allows it. He's got this toe injury that's kept him out of practice all week.
Yeah.
So we need to keep an eye on that. However, he aggravated that injury against the Vikings early in the game and then threw 4 touchdowns in the last 4 possessions of that same game. So I think he's going to be able to gut it out, but we'll see. I think he's so fun to watch. In some ways, he's more than like a game manager. He's in season manager mode. He knows where they need to go. Like, they've been to the NFC title game 2 games in a row. He's done the MVP, throw 48 touchdowns thing before. Now he's like all about 26-11 wins. That's fine with me,
I am
too.
with Greg, though, just like taking notes from that game. And I've been kind of not the Aaron Rodgers guy. It's like, I get it, he's perfect things.
Disqualifier every time we talk about the
I know,
Packers.
just because perfect things don't interest me.
I don't think
he's been perfect for so long.
I don't think he's perfect right now.
No,
Like,
he's
my
not,
dad,
but-
who never has a football opinion, was like, I was glad to see Aaron Rodgers lose last week. Somehow he's like, the
my
country's
dad,
turned
that's
against
funny.
him.
My dad, this is before any other stuff, was like, Rodgers, he's arrogant. He's always
Well,
thought
I think
that.
he strikes people that way. But I do think, and no Elgton Jenkins, David Bakhtiari's still not in the mix. Like, his offensive line is crumbling around him a little bit, but it doesn't seem to matter. You're right. Some of the throws he made last week was a whole different scenario. He took over that game, and I think it is a warning to the rest of the NFC because the Packers have kind of been overlooked all year long outside of some of Dan's power rankings articles.
Yeah, I keep putting him at number 1, and then I immediately lose the following week every time I do it. Danny, I like Rodgers, but he's an egotist.
It's trenchant commentary.
Greg, on the Bears.
Oh, Bears. I'm just so sick of talking about Matt Nagy, so I try to think of something happy I took from Thanksgiving, and that was Darnell Mooney. Yeah, Tulane.
Okay.
Right there.
Is that the Tulane clap? Is that
no, that's just a clap they do at sporting
You didn't
events.
clap enough times according to the
clap,
tagline.
clap.
The big wave.
What a player. There's no slight to Allen Robinson here. I'm just saying, Darnell Mooney is going to put up 1,100, 1,200 yards. Everyone's like, oh, you can't put up any yards when you're on the Bears. Tough situation. This guy's got 4.3 speed. He's got great hands. They found a playmaker for the future to play with Justin Fields when Fields gets back.
Right, because Allen Robinson is the past. He really is. I mean, he's injured right now. He has a hamstring, but he has not been in the game plan when he's been around for the most part, and he will be elsewhere next year, you would think. But by the way, Allen Robinson has been doing this for 3 or 4 years in Chicago, with bad quarterback play, bad offense.
My point is he's like the next Allen Robinson.
Putting up the numbers. Yeah. He is talented, though. And he's the guy. They needed desperately someone to step up and make plays, even on Thursday, and he's done it.
You can start to make the case, for Justin Fields, Darnell Mooney, other pieces to be very enticing.
David Montgomery.
Well, very enticing if you're like, hey, Brian Daboll, we need you to come in and rescue this ship that continues to sink every season. And I think it's an interesting landing spot for whoever comes next, because it's not going to be the current coaching staff. We know that.
You covered that game, Bears-Lions,
I did.
on our podcast.
What an human experience for you.
Yes. No, that was jumped out to me. You have Jimmy Graham, who's 400 years old. You have Allen Robinson on the sideline, and with Andy Dalton there. He needed somebody. It's Mooney. Clap, 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 clap. So that's good.
250 yards combined the last 2 weeks.
And by the way, if we're talking Bears, again, Andy Dalton, he's going to continue to get paid because I think he's one of the best backups in the league. You put him in, you plug him in, he'll give you a professional effort almost every game.
He's no Colt McCoy, but I hear you.
I don't know.
He's better.
We might have a little Dalton later in the show. Now, if that's not a tease, I don't know what is. People sticking around. We need more Dalton.
Mark on the Lions.
America waits breathlessly. Detroit lacks any semblance of discipline. You know what? I just feel bad for these guys. I do. I just feel bad for them. But it was hard to watch. And, Dan, you covered this game. But 10 penalties yesterday. We get the thing where Dan Campbell, how are there still coaches getting caught in this calling back-to-back timeout scenarios? He said the second attempt was because his defensive backfield was all over the place. But still, there's too many things to point to in every game where I like the idea of Dan Campbell. I like the idea of the changing the culture, changing the team, but on a week-to-week basis, it's not happening. And when you're breaking down fundamentally, and when you're not kind of, when the penalties are taking over in the timeout scenario, that's killing a team that already is at the bottom of the barrel talent.
Well, he is, they're talent poor, like you're saying, and the culture is something that he's working on and has been improved, but you got to win some of these games, and it's unfortunate for Dan Campbell and the Lions how that played out, because when you have this spotlight game and you look inept and unprepared and unorganized in that big spot, it's overall a bad look. And in general, when you're watching that game, because they should have won that game, they should have won 4 or 5 games this year. Just seeing the way they let games slip away. There's 6 holding calls on their offensive line. The fact that they were in 2 2nd and 32 scenarios in this game, including when they were trying to close the game out in the fourth quarter before they punted it away fatefully. So the Lions have so much work to do. We like Dan Campbell, but you want to have a couple wins here to show that we know what we're doing here.
It's 6 games now they've lost by 1 score. So they've been in all these games. I don't know if they should have won. I mean, yards per play, the Bears were much better. I thought they looked a little more professional. The Lions fight every week, and the Lions defense is actually playing quite well, against some shaky offenses, but shut down the Browns, shut down the Steelers, did a pretty good job against the Bears. So they've flipped what they're good at, and yet they just find a way to lose. That's sad.
It's tough. It's tough. All right, let's talk. We'll close out the division with the Minnesota Vikings. And listen, Kirk Cousins, he's not a cool dad. He's never going to be a cool dad. That's okay. Okay? And he's like, what are you talking about? What is this even about? It's just he's having a season now where nobody wants to look at him. I don't know where he's in Greg's QB index.
The
probably
highest he's
4
ever been.
spots too low.
5. Number 5 right now.
Good for you.
Intriguing.
And it's like, but when you if you ever have a conversation about the top 5 quarterbacks in the league, Kirk Cousins will never come up maybe it's time, just because he's not cool, just because he doesn't trip, Greg, he doesn't have swag. Like, let's not hold it against him.
Well, by you saying he doesn't drip with air quotes, now you're no longer a cool dad. Because I was wondering, like, we can't all
never cool.
We can't all be cool dads. So are we 0 for 3? Yeah, he's fun to watch too when he's being aggressive, and he has been. His accuracy, just as a pure thrower, you don't think of him as like, well, he's not as talented as the other guys. Like, I get that, but if the idea of throwing the ball as a quarterback is a talent, he throws it.
It's part of it.
The ball goes where he intends to throw it about as well as anyone right now down the field. And that's a skill, so he is talented.
I'm seeing
Look, he's loved. Look at the sideline. This guy is a leader.
Well, that's changed. Mike Zimmer said that their relationship, and we've been tracking that on the show, has improved because of what Kirk Cousins is doing of late. I'm seeing a little bad boy energy, and the only people that
I don't see that.
I do here and there. I think he's trying to suppress it, but you can't suppress it entirely. Sometimes, who wants to be a cool dad other than guys that think they're cool dads anyways? That's not the tag I want to walk around with anyways.
When you try to be a cool dad, yes,
you're in a lot of trouble.
Backfires. It has to come.
We've seen cool dads though. Remember that guy who did the karaoke? We were at a get together celebrating our great friend Tara Deeker.
Yes.
And he did karaoke with his son, and they played some music. Like that was a cool dad.
That guy
I'd like
was
to be that guy.
I know exactly what you're talking about now. We got there, and the viewers.
They maybe did not get there with us. We'll see.
He was a cool dad, though. You have to trust us on that. All right, there you go. The NFC North in the books. Up next, we hit the NFC. I mean, he was a cool dad. That guy at that.
Hammer that point home.
Cool. The NFC West up next, the division that feels up for grabs, but the Cardinals have hit their bye on top. Up next on the broadcast. All right, welcome back to the broadcast. 32 teams in 2 hours. We're up to the NFC West. Greg, hit the Rams, please.
I'm just going to say that Sean McVay's got a lot of pride on stake this weekend. You can't let Matt LaFleur beat him again. His buddy Kyle Shanahan, his mentor, just took out Sean McVay, kind of owns him. And Matt LaFleur, of course, beat him in the playoffs last year. I know these two teams haven't played that much in big spots. But this is a spot where Aaron Rodgers isn't 100%. The Packers are far from 100%. This is Rams' go time. If they want to get that 1 seed, they cannot afford to drop another game. And they say it's not personal. It's personal. These
totally
guys, how can it
personal.
not be personal?
I mean, that
competitive, not like animosity.
The egotists.
Yeah.
they're on text threads with each other, jabbing each other. Also, Sean McVay, I mean, talk about personal, went into the bye week kind of like totally humbled. And I think that for their image of the Rams right now, coming, after that Niners game, they're soft, they can't handle tough teams, the Titans, the Niners beat them up. You've got to come into this game and show who you are. I mean, maybe if you're Sean McVay, stop teaching your pupils so much so that they become better and outshine you.
Well, Shanahan,
teach them ill lessons so they make mistakes down the road. That's not
The Belichick method?
That's exactly.
Well, look at it. When you look at the Wonder Boys, Kyle Shanahan, Matt LaFleur, Cliff Kingsbury, Sean McVay, they all want to be the shiny boy.
Shiny boy.
They want to be seen as the top genius. They want to see as like the best-looking guy of the group.
They want to score high on that
effort.
rankings.
Yeah.
Another spot where LaFleur beat him. LaFleur was number 1 in that.
Well, let's stick a pin in that. We're going to get to the coach attractiveness power rankings that came out this week, which Mark is not even joking around, furious about.
I haven't seen him this upset about anything football related all season, but this you are upset about. This is like a spot though where these two teams fascinate me because I think like the Packers are we're better than the sum of our parts this team this year in terms of overcoming. The Rams, if they lose this game, you might have to start thinking about them as like we're less than the sum of our parts.
Ouch, that's what
so
I'm
saying.
saying.
You gotta win
It's
this
a
game.
huge game. Also, the Odell Beckham storyline, the Von Miller storyline. Those guys need to now step in out of the bye and have a presence because they need them both. Mark, I know you want that Odell situation to combust.
No,
it's okay.
I don't.
It's okay.
I hope everyone
Just be honest.
have a great time, everyone.
Mark's like, combustible. Mark on the Cardinals.
How about this? The Cardinals nailed this, my dudes. All right, look, it's not all because they're wicked smart, but
You've never said that to
Kyler
us
Murray has not played since Week 8. DeAndre Hopkins has not played since Week 8, and they somehow escaped that scenario that would have been a doomsday scenario if you knew it a month beforehand. Beating the Niners, beating the Seahawks, 2 divisional games. And you know what? Kyler Murray practiced a couple weeks ago last week.
I wonder he's got that big helmet.
Played.
I didn't know what was going on.
Oh,
That's awesome.
he is not tall, but he is thick. I mean, but he could have potentially played last week, I think, if it were a playoff game. Also, it's the way they're built. I think Steve Keim, a lot of up and down with him in Arizona, but he went out and got Zach Ertz, who's become a bigger and bigger part of this offense. When Kyler Murray comes in, that's a piece for him to add. You come back, they're all going to be healthy after this bye week. Maybe it's just the universe sort of saying, we dig this Cardinals team, but it kind of all worked out.
Yeah, I hope they're healthy out of the bye week. The assumption is that they'll come back. That's the whole party line here is like, what a job. They nailed this. Colt McCoy, they got 2 out of 3 wins. Then the bye. Now everyone's going to come back and be 100%, and they're going to keep rolling.
Well, we'll see.
I've learned from this football season to this point that don't trust anything once you think you figured it out. The old Roddy Piper thing. Just when I had all the answers, they changed all the questions. That's what the season is about. So them losing in Chicago in 2 weeks wouldn't stun me. I'm sorry.
Wrestling is not real, so this is a sport that, as far as I can tell, is real, Greg.
But Murray's got to show that he can stay healthy. Not that like that hit that he took was on him, but he's missed time over the last couple of years. Like Lamar Jackson, Herbert, I think of them as having this incredible skill of avoiding hits. And Kyler Murray this year, I think, went out of his way not to run to avoid hits, but he's got to stay on the field. And Nuke Hopkins has got to stay on the field. Nuke Hopkins, last practice in 2017, it was the same week Julio Jones did. Like, even when he's out there, he's always hurting. So they need those two guys to be 100%.
Counterpoint, do you need to stay on the field when Colt McCoy has been doing what he's doing? Just going to leave it right there?
At some point,
that's
yes.
for next week?
Yes.
So you
need
just keep Kyler on the bench. I think that's
just a
a
possibility.
strategy. All right, 49ers. Remember Trey Lance? Isn't it kind of crazy, especially in this era where if you draft a quarterback in the top 3, he's playing. Like, he's in the lineup. And now here we are about to turn the calendar over to December, and Jimmy G has been playing much better of late. They're starting to win now. They have some momentum. And the number 3 overall pick, this electrifying talent that the whole assumption was he was going to be the guy, he's been pushed to the margins. And maybe that's better for Trey Lance and for the 49ers in the big picture. I'm not saying he needs to be in the lineup now, but it is surprising that he's not involved right now.
I think so, too. And, I mean, if anything, maybe they're kind of telling us, as they have been, that Trey Lance is just not entirely ready. I'll give them this. All offseason, they were like, we're going to use both. We're going to use Jimmy G. I mean, I think this ultimately ends in like a conscious uncoupling, like a Gwyneth Paltrow, Chris Martin scenario where Jimmy G fades off.
Got to get Paltrow into the show.
Every week. Well, Greg,
Pop Warner Football,
name another conscious uncoupling that we know about. I mean, that was, I think they
There's
branded
only one.
that.
The universe has only had one.
They branded it, but it feels like that could happen here because they did right by Jimmy G for the most part here. And he's helping them out.
It is funny, to think about after that Colts game where the 49ers lost in the rain, they asked Kyle Shanahan, is Jimmy G starting next week? And he said, I would guess so. And it turned out Trey Lance was not healthy enough to start that next week at Chicago. Otherwise, maybe he would have. Since then, the 49ers are number one in expected points on offense. Like one of the most efficient offenses in the league. So what are you going to do? You're not going to take him out.
Is it because of him?
Well, he's
no,
not
it's definitely not because of him, but he's doing his thing.
Right.
On balance, I don't think he became what they hoped he was going to be when they traded for him. But this version of him, I think, is steady enough, as long as he's healthy, to pilot the offense, and that's what he's been able to do. And by the way, since you brought up Gwyneth Paltrow, and you brought up that scenario a couple weeks back after that rain game, sliding doors moment, Gwyneth Paltrow film.
Which we mentioned on last week's show.
A lot of sliding doors.
A lot of sliding doors talk.
They can't get enough, the people
Remember
watching
when all
this.
the fantasy heads were like drafting Trey Lance in the 6th or 7th round?
Yeah, I did.
And they still have him on their team.
I finally had to, I was like, I can't do this anymore. All right, let's finish the division with the Seahawks. What is that called? How do you pronounce it? Melatonin?
Yeah, melatonin.
They are football melatonin. And I don't know how we got here because this used to be a fun offense to watch. I know they've always run the ball too much and we weren't necessarily on board with some of the offensive strategy and the tendencies, but the let Russ cook era of last year, the first half of last year, like could we be any further away from that now to watch a completely broken offense? And I know, they fired Brian Schottenheimer. Shane Waldron came in. He was supposed to connect with Russell Wilson. Obviously, that's not working either. So what happens next? How do the Seahawks, I don't even know if you could say salvage the season, although I wouldn't count them out because this is a weird year. But what do you do next?
I look at this comparison. I love it. They help you fall asleep like melatonin. You don't stay asleep necessarily. It doesn't keep you asleep. Russell Wilson has sometimes endorsed some dubious medical benefits from products. Melatonin, there's some question about like whether this is really
that gets on Greg's radar.
It does. It does. I show up on Washington. I'm not giving up because it's Russell Wilson. I'm just like, it can't be like this for 7 more weeks, can it?
I mean, it's melatonin. For me, it's more like Valley of the Dolls, like empty bottle of sleeping pills, woman strewn out on a bed scenario. I mean, that's how interesting the Seahawks have been to me. I think this ends in another conscious uncoupling with Russell Wilson probably leaving this team after this year. There's a host of teams that might trade for him. This is not going to end well.
You lost me there. I don't know what to say.
Valley
I don't know
of the
how
Dolls,
to react.
a film from the 60s.
No, something about someone strewn out.
Yeah, there's a lot of wayward activity.
I think melatonin you can buy your local pharmacy. It's over the counter.
I just don't know how can you fix this offense this season, and if you can't, do you just throw out the entire offense? And does it matter? Because is Russell Wilson going to be so annoyed by the trajectory of his career as he turns 33 this week, I believe, that he's going to want that fresh start?
Look, if they don't turn it around the rest of the season, like you have to start thinking Russell Wilson's not that same guy that we thought he was, because that's a half of last season and a big chunk of this season. I think he will turn around though.
All right, Russell Wilson to the Jets for Zach Wilson and the Seahawks #1 pick they gave up for Jamal.
We've talked about it. I think one team would be into that.
Jets would be into that for sure.
Play NFL Knockout, the free-to-play game presented by Caesars Sportsbook. Answer 15 questions about the Seahawks-Washington football game to win exclusive prizes, including a VIP package to this year's Super Bowl 56 in Los Angeles. Visit NFL.com/knockout. I'm just saying, because you said it, that maybe Russell Wilson isn't that good anymore. So maybe we don't need to do the 3 first-round pick thing.
Good luck with that.
I take my chances.
NFC South up next on the broadcast. Let's dig in. Wild division. Welcome back to the broadcast. It's time to talk NFC South. We'll start with the defending Super Bowl champions, the Bucs. You know, watching their last game on Monday night against the Giants, it was like, don't mind us. We're just scooching on through. We're just taking care of business. We're scooching. Our goal here is not to set any records. We just want to go 12-5. We hope that will get us the number 1 seed, and if it doesn't, we'll be fine anyway. Just getting to January, taking care of business. That's what they're doing, and Tom Brady obviously out front, leading the way, getting it done.
I love this because I feel like, we worry about certain things as analysts and fans of these teams. This is one I have not worried about the Bucs all year. I'm just like, they're going to do exactly what you just said.
Scooch.
They'll get Antonio Brown back next week, it sounds like. They're getting healthier in the secondary. Carlton Davis. You're scooching on
Gronk
through,
is back
baby.
and making plays again. Scooch.
You're scooching.
Gronk makes such a difference.
Scooch.
I'm amazed how great Gronk is.
Scooch.
Helps to take a
their
year off,
offense went through a pretty decent slump there without Gronk. He comes back in. He changes their play calling. They have the perfect schedule the rest of the way, too. This week against Indianapolis, great test. Great game. The Colts can absolutely win that game. I picked the Bucs, but it's a good test. You got the Bills in a couple weeks, but other than that, you have the Jets, and you got 4 or 5 games against the worst-looking NFC South they've ever seen. Now that the Saints have fallen off a cliff,
Spoiler alert.
Falcons are bad. They got the Panthers twice. I know the Panthers are frisky, but I think they'll take care of the Panthers. Like, the Bucs, if I had to pick one team to get that 1 seed, it's still the Bucs.
I'll give you guys everything I have if they don't go exactly 12-5. We've never seen a 12-5 because this is the first year of the extended schedule.
Right.
But they are the perfect 12-5 team.
I think I want most things you have.
They were
I'm not
11-5
sure I want them
last
all.
year. Checks out.
There you go. It's going to happen. Any other thoughts on the defending champs?
The scooching through, I think we've
It's a scooch scenario.
nailed it.
But Gronk did move well in that game, and it reminded me of week 1 when everybody was going nuts. It's like, oh my God, Pete Gronk is back. Well, he doesn't have to be that guy, but if he could be that red zone threat that has that mind meld with Brady, it makes him that much more dangerous.
He's a big guy.
Scooch. Mark on the Saints.
I just thought it was weird on Thanksgiving night, the nightcap game, to watch Breeze broadcast a totally broken down Saints game.
Oh, Tarico.
The Saints team. I mean,
Nice little slide there. I like that. That was a nod.
Good slide, good start.
it has to be up there with the lowest regular season low points for Sean Payton. I think he's coached he's done an incredible job this year. He's my coach of the year guy for weeks and weeks, but the parts are not there. The car is broken down by the side of the road. They're hard to watch, and you got Drew Brees up there trying to do the best he can because he doesn't want to say anything negative about them, but man, it's a low point.
He looks dynamic as hell here. Look at that, all the arm
That was
motion
good.
stuff
That was
going on.
that was a highlight. I mean, he was part of a halftime ceremony. That doesn't happen too often. Like, he came
To a
down,
broadcaster.
gave a speech at halftime. Meanwhile, then he has to go back up and be like, "Oh yeah, this
fine.
team
Well,
is bad."
It was just
Yeah,
a little
that's tough for
strange. It was a
him.
little strange.
It was
that's all.
Thanksgiving night.
It was a lesson in professionalism. My first Super Bowl, I had to watch my team, the Patriots, lose to the Giants, and then do a 5 minutes afterwards on NBCSports.com.
5 minutes?
You are an edgy
professional.
professional, Greg. No
I
one
wasn't, though. I
questions that.
watched the video back, and I was dead in the eyes and sad looking.
My brother-in-law Tanner did 2 tours of duty in Afghanistan, and some of the stories he told me I'll never forget, harrowing. But then I heard Greg say that he did 5 minutes
Oh,
after
then
Super Bowl
it puts
42.
it in perspective. It really does.
And I'm thinking, wow, the heroes really are all around me.
I need a little more from Breeze. I didn't feel like I got a lot that indicated to me that he's the most important player in their franchise history. It was a lot of just normal analysis talking about this.
Yeah, I came in saying I
want a
thought
little more
for his
personal.
first game
A little
ever,
more
I thought he did some things very well, a couple things very well. Greg just dropping bombs on him left and right before the show. So I'd say, how do we correct that?
He's done a lot in that community, Greg, as
Yes, he
well.
has.
He's a hero.
So,
Give
no,
me some
you're
of that-
a hero.
give me some
5
of that
minutes.
feeling.
5 minutes on 42 you did.
It was like the 5 reasons why the Giants pulled the upset of the century.
Greg on the Panthers.
They lost last week. Very surprised by that game against Washington, but I am not worried about Cam Newton at all. I think that was a great first start for Cam Newton.
Yeah.
He clearly wasn't up to speed on the 2-minute situation there. They were a little slow in terms of getting the play calls in, but he ran it well. Look at these big old
Look at this. He turns
strides.
the corner and just runs away from the secondary.
And he threw it well. I mean, they had 3 touchdown drives. I think they only had the ball 9 times. I'm not expecting this offense to be anything better than average. And they were average at least last week. They need their defense to play better. Cam wasn't the problem last week.
That was such a disappointing loss for Carolina because you would completely reset your season when Cam came back the week prior and you felt like they were ready to take off. And then Cam plays well in this homecoming game, very emotional. And then the D just can't get off the field against Taylor Heineke. And it's like, guys, that was a major opportunity to kind of send your season in a really good direction. And now you're back kind of in this murky middle.
They can't catch a wave because the defense was the thing that you thought you could count on. I love the idea. You've got the Dolphins, and they've been spicy on defense too, but they have their bye week after that. If you're Joe Brady, you can kind of take some time, get Cam acclimated, because it's been like, I mean, they got him up to speed in days. That just doesn't happen to quarterbacks in general successfully, but a little bit of a break after the Dolphins will help a lot, I bet.
You just made me think, like, that's a huge game. For both. I mean,
It
the
is
Dolphins are trying to pretend they're in the mix. You've been trying to make that case. But the Panthers, if you go into the bye at 5-7, and you just lost to the Dolphins in Washington, all the air is out of that.
Well, remember,
but you go in at 6-6, you're feeling fine.
I picked both of these teams as wild card entries, which looked like a nightmare scenario for me. Take me to HR.
Which format was this? Because you
It's still a
changed on every
nightmare.
different one.
It's still a nightmare,
but there's hope for both. There wasn't
There's
a
no
couple
hope
weeks
for
ago.
the Dolphins. Well, if they won this week.
Greg, you have a Dolphins topic coming up later that completely
Don't ask me to be
disintegrates what you
consistent.
just said. So
People aren't going to watch all the way to that segment.
Okay.
It's fine.
Way to build the audience fervor. Greg, Mark on the Falcons.
Well, I just think that at this point, we all see it. Matt Ryan needs a hug. I mean, it has been a rough month for Matt Ryan, and I used to be on the train of like this Arthur Smith offense is on the arrow up scenario. But just look at Matt Ryan's face in general. He looks red-faced.
Does he look like a guy that wants to be hugged? You have to ask for clearance before approaching Matt Ryan after some of these slumping days.
You should always ask someone if
That's
they
a
want
fair
a
question.
hug.
And that's Greg. Greg is very good with the
Well
rules,
done,
so
Greg.
that makes sense. But I'm just saying, Matt Ryan in general, someone who is in his world, who's allowed to hug him, should be hugging him. I mean, this is his yards per game right now are the lowest since 2010, like 1,000 years ago. I mean, and the offense is broken down entirely, and he's the face of it. Look at him right here. He's just not a happy man.
He looks old. I don't mean that like that picture of him. He looks old. No, he looks fine. He looks great, in fact. But I mean, as a football player in the pocket, he looks like a guy that's vulnerable if he doesn't have the right setup around him, and he doesn't have the right setup around him.
Right, that line is so bad. I think Matt Ryan's played great this year. I really do for the most part. When they've protected him, I remember in that Patriots game, that's the last one they played, at one point he was 4 for 11 for 46 yards, and I remember writing down, like, Matt Ryan is playing as well as I've ever seen a quarterback play to be 4 for 11 and 46 yards. Like, he literally, at that point in the game, hadn't done anything wrong. Like, he'd escaped some plays, he'd made a couple good throws, and they're getting hammered. Like, what are you going to do?
Well, I'm not saying that it's his play that's been the problem. I just think that when you're his age, you're thinking, please protect me, build something around me. This was meant to be the crescendoing John Elway end of my career.
And he needs a hug.
And there's none of that
Do
nonsense.
you think
needs a big ol' hug.
you're a good? Are you a good hugger? Like,
Well, I know, Greg, you put so many rules around the concept of
Well, here's
hugging
the
someone.
thing.
I don't think I'm allowed in the circle. I'm saying someone that's
like
close
I
to
was
you.
going to
File
get
the
breakfast
paperwork.
Right.
last Sunday morning or whatever, and one of the biggest bosses at our company, Charlie Yu, comes up to me, gives me a huge bear hug out of nowhere. Like,
Oh, that made you.
I didn't
He's a
want
hugger,
it,
though. He's a hugger.
but
You
I didn't want it.
I would take a hug from Charlie Yu.
I love the man,
Yeah.
and I appreciated the sentiment, but I wasn't ready
Greg,
for it.
you and touch are not things that you're
want it.
working through that as
Yeah,
an
you've
adult
got to
man.
respect that.
Hug me anytime, Charlie Uke. All right, that's it for the NFC South. I mean, it's not a Charlie thing. You don't want anybody to.
Right. I told him in
Yeah.
the moment. I was like, you should have
Be
asked.
clear to him.
You should have asked. All right, coming up next before we hit the AFC, who's better? Good combo coming up. Who's better? Who's better? Presented by Truist. We'll set you up, tee you boys up. Start week 12. Who's better? Week 12. Aaron Rodgers, the 2020 Defensive Player of the Year, or Aaron Donald, the Defensive Player of the Year,
right.
or Aaron Rodgers, the MVP of a year ago.
We can read it. We get what you're saying. I mean, I don't know. Aaron Rodgers is the best at what he does, at throwing the football, reading defenses, going on the Pat McAfee show. Aaron Donald is good at crushing quarterbacks into dust. I mean, they do different things, different needs, different people. But I'm going Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers has just been the best for so long. By an edge, little edge.
The way it's framed, I'm going to go Aaron Donald. Because, quarterbacks are more important, but it's not who's more valuable. Aaron Donald's going to go down, I think, as one of the top 3 or 4 defensive players of all time. Maybe Rodgers goes down in that mix. It's a tough one.
Right.
Are we putting Donald that high? I know he's the best defensive lineman in the league, but 3 or 4 all time? I mean, I know.
How many other guys have won this many Defensive Player of the Years and been that top 5? He's in that conversation. So is Aaron Rodgers. So it's a great debate.
I want your list.
What a choice for Truist this week. Who's better? I don't know.
Never heard of Lawrence Taylor.
I go Aaron Rodgers just because, yes, quarterback's more important, and he's been one of the greatest to ever play the sport.
By the way,
he's top 5 ever.
I don't think this is Donald's best season. He's still the All-Pro. He's probably not Defensive Player of the Year. I don't think he's had his best season.
So
or Rodgers either.
Speak to your heart and say Aaron Rodgers because he looked better than ever the last time we saw him in Week 11.
I'm
on over.
I'm sticking
okay.
with Donald.
All right, how about this, Greg? Kirk Cousins, who's like aggressive downfield attacker.
Yeah.
Or Kurt Cousins. He's the inside, tentative, timid man that checks down a lot and doesn't like
It's aggro, Kirk. It's aggro, Kirk. I mean, even Mike Zimmer knows it. You could kind of hear in the press conferences this week when they talked about Kirk Cousins and how he's been more aggressive the last few weeks. And Zimmer's like, yeah, we've been telling him that for a while. So maybe this whole thing of the Vikings aren't aggressive, maybe it's just getting Kirk to do it. Because Kirk Cousins said, even in his press conference, he's like, maybe I shouldn't have been so aggressive in that game because I almost threw the ball away a couple times. No, aggro Kirk is the man.
I'm with you 100%. I mean, go with your feelings. The Vikings suddenly are a team I want to watch and I want to believe in because of aggro Kirk. When they had safe and sound Kirk Cousins, that's when I was like, I don't care if they win 9 games. They don't mean anything.
That's just not his name, though.
I'm saying when he's Kirk Cousins, he's being the little scared guy.
You know who the timid Kirk is? Is the guy trying to hit the target in the gender reveal video.
And
that's
almost missing it. Yeah. That's
Aggro Kurt is just ripping that thing and breaking it.
He's destroying it. He's ruining the whole party. He's starting like a brush fire that takes out 4 towns. That's Kurt.
Here he is. This is Aggro
Kurt. We're back with this clip.
Kirk. Now Kurt,
they like each other more.
Kurt is like checking down. He's listening to like Phil Collins solo records. Like he's just, again, not a cool dad. Kirk.
He's like avoiding the negative PFF plays on 3rd and 8. He just checks it down. No.
I mean, I like Phil Collins, Dan, and so do you. So I don't know what that meant.
Well, late period Collins, like when he's on the Tarzan soundtrack. That's what Kirk Cousins is.
Oh, yeah, well, pre-Tarzan, but I mean, that's kind of...
All right, there you go. That was Who's Better, presented by Truist. And coming up next, we move to the American Football Conference and start with the Eastern Division, one that the Patriots were all alone until Thursday.
Uh-oh.
It's getting spicy atop the AFC East. Up next on the broadcast.
Cool dads definitely don't listen to Phil Collins.
No.
Don't care about being cool dad.
Welcome back to Hour 2 of the Around the NFL broadcast, a trip around our league. Copyright Troy Aikman. Boys, we hit the NFC in the first hour. Now it's time to hit the AFC. And everybody should know, coming up at the end of this hour, Mark is very upset about some power rankings, but they're not mine. Just that's a little tease. Stick a pin in it. And I know you're angry. We're going to get to it.
Yeah, yours are flawless. These other ones, no.
All right, let's get to the AFC East to start things off here. Mark, get us going on the Pats, tied with the Bills, first place in the division.
How about this basic bros a year ago saying Bill Belichick isn't special? They were running to that point that we finally found out that Bill Belichick's just a guy. Oh, the Patriots go 7-9 without Tom Brady. This guy's just like anyone else. He's Vic Fangio in a different getup. Well, guess what? That's just not the case. What we're looking at is one of the better turnarounds we've seen from any team this season. He found a quarterback in like months. Mac Jones looks great. They are the most physical team in the AFC right now. They're beating teams up. The defense is total Belichickian. Yeah, I get the free agency class was hit or miss, but Matt Judon might be the free agent signing of the year.
Nailed
they
it.
drafted really well. They're sitting atop the AFC with chances to knock off the Bills twice. I mean, this is a total Belichick scenario. How you feeling, basic bros?
Well, this is a straw man. Nobody said that. I remember
last year, all sorts of people were saying that he.
I said the Patriots aren't special anymore, and they weren't. And by the way, just a newsflash.
It was a shot at Dan.
It was not a shot at Dan.
Just a newsflash to everyone who's so excited right now, and this is in New England too. The Patriots still aren't special. Right now, this isn't a special team, okay? They're a good team.
See, it's getting under his skin a little bit.
No, it's just
now
like
he's back to hating them
people
again.
need to like pump the brakes. They get too caught up in the moment. They beat a bunch of bums for the most part. Before we crown these guys as the dynasty reignited, let's see a little bit more, including some Bills matchups.
We're not pumping the brakes on other teams that are winning 5 games in a row. Why must we pump the brakes on New England?
Well,
because it annoys us that they're good again.
It annoys those basic bros. You got to beat the Titans, and then you got the Bills. If you go 1-1, then that's fine, probably in these 2 weeks. But you should beat the Titans. They're so banged up. I want to say it's a straw man, but Mark's kind of right. There was a group that really wanted to dunk on Belichick Brady. Like that, they wanted to make that point. That like, see, it was Brady.
Which was well earned because Belichick blew it. He blew the Tom Brady partnership.
It was never one or the other. It's both. That's how football
Overall,
works.
he did not blow it. Overall, it was the best partnership in NFL history.
And it should still be going on.
Its end was rocky.
That was ego and the inability for him to share the glory. That's.
Or just evaluate where Brady was at.
I'm just saying they were 7-9 last year. They weren't 1-15. So now they're 7-4, and we want to act like they're a dynasty again.
I mean, it annoys you just a little bit.
No, you don't like the truth. That's what it is.
The truth is they're one of the best teams in the AFC. There goes
what does that mean? What does that mean in the AFC?
That they did it in 1 year. Every other team's on like a 22-year rebuilding project in the AFC East. Please.
All right, here we go. Bills. Blowout or bust? Bills. Boffo in Bayou, baby boys.
Okay.
He never called us baby boys. He's never called us my dudes. Right, that's good.
I've never called anyone baby boy before. If you look at the Bills' schedule, and good job getting right after that embarrassing loss against the Colts in Week 11, on Thanksgiving night, you just take it to a undermanned Saints team on the road and just blow them out of the building. So good job. And if you look at their season schedule, it's basically all blowout wins. Every single win has been a blowout. I think there's been they're 7-4. All of them have been by, I think, multiple touchdowns or close. And then a handful of dispiriting, curious losses. So good job here. Good job getting tied with the mighty Patriots once again. I don't know how they'll even keep pace with a superpower at that level.
All right.
But at the end of the day, this is still the best team in the division, and this is the team that will win the division.
Ooh, well, they get to prove it. They got Monday Night Football, Week 13, in Buffalo against the Patriots. Then they're in Tampa the next week, and then they got the Patriots a couple weeks later. So we get all the answers we need on the Bills. They are one of those teams that it does feel like the regular season is just a warm-up act, and you don't want to blow it too much as you get there. And they haven't. They're 7-4. I think there's legitimate questions about how they match up with New England in terms of the Patriots being able to do some of the things that the Colts did a couple weeks ago. But that's the great thing about football. They can prove it.
Yeah, I think there's a couple teams that you could say they don't match up well with. But I feel a little bit for Buffalo because, not that they care, but because they're not as electric as they were a year ago. And even Josh Allen's had some up and down moments. And it's like, oh, the Bills haven't figured it out. I think they're fine. But you're right. This schedule, Patriots, Bucks, Patriots, is going to tell us everything we need to know and solve all these conversations.
Yeah, I think the Bills can be special. I don't think they have been special this year, but I think they have that in them. Now, whether they are or not, or whether we'll be looking back in January at one of the big disappointments, I think that's fair to say.
They want to get that home game, though. They don't want to try to have to win 3 road playoff games to get to the Super Bowl.
I wouldn't want to play the Bills, though, in the playoffs. I don't know. In this, Josh Allen in a big spot. I like him there. All right. Up next, Greg, Dolphins.
Ooh, Miami. I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth.
I know,
this
you're
show.
killing these guys 5 minutes
just
ago.
because I was saying their season was over, and then Mark looked ahead on the call sheet. And the Dolphins can be relevant on Christmas Day if they win this week. And this is where it all comes down to just like managing your schedule. This is a tough game. I think versus Carolina, 2 teams that obviously have flaws in terms of their offensive line and want to win with defense. But if you can get that win, then you get the Giants, then you get a bye week, and then you get the Jets. Both of those games are in Miami. I don't know if I trust Miami to win any week, but if you can win 4 straight, and that's what beating Carolina would do, then I am going to start trusting them. And then suddenly you're playing on December 27th against the Saints, who have all sorts of problems, trying to get a winning record. They can be relevant at the least.
These teams change so much. Had their last 3 games been the way they started the season, we'd be calling Miami a giant killer. I mean, they've allowed 12 points a game. They are the number 1 blitz rate team in the league.
The Giants they killed included the Texans and the Jets.
But all right,
in one-score games.
But to your point, they're just in the race. I don't see him as a true contender, but the way the defense is played, and they are blitz heavy, and I think that Cam Newton, if you look at his numbers from a year ago, I get it was that Patriots team, he did not do well against the blitz. He's new to this team. That will matter, I think. It's going to be a big test.
Can the Dolphins replace the Falcons on the shows, the team I don't care about, that you guys get excited about?
Slot them in.
I don't know. I can't. Everything you're saying makes sense. But even if they won,
relevant.
If they win 2 more games and they're 6 in a row, 6 and 7, and then won 5 straight, I feel like I still wouldn't be that excited because I think this team has a defined ceiling. I'm not really in love with the offense. The defense has been up and down. But yes, if you're a Dolphins fan, you're saying to yourself, man, this season was a disaster at 1-7, and now we might have something to root for. So I just don't trust them to even in this game. I don't think they win this game. Like straight up, and then we could just go on with our lives.
I don't think they've earned everyone's trust. It's just like a wait and see.
Big game.
You know.
It's a big game, I guess. Yeah, because if they win, they're in the combo. They lose, we don't have to have these conversations.
That's how you market it. It's
about
a big game, I
team.
guess.
All right, up next, Mark on the JETS.
All right, how about this? The boy must become a man.
It's time.
We get the JETS soundbite. You know, we've been talking about Zach Wilson as the boy who, that they are trying to
The boy
grow.
who shall lead them.
He shall lead them, and he's not had a chance to. In the last 4 weeks where he's not been in there have been their 4 highest yardage outputs. They looked a little bit more organized in some of their games, and all I'm asking Zach Wilson to do is come in and be part of that. Like, don't have it crumble now that you're back in. Because here's the thing. We're going to have to deal with this all offseason. If Zach Wilson struggles down the stretch, you go into the offseason wondering, is he your quarterback? I'd like to see him play well and just say, you know what? Yes, he is. We're going to keep building around him. Don't trade for X, Y, and Z veteran. You got your guy. You know, how many more guys can Joe Douglas draft at this point? This better be it.
If Zach Wilson can play, Joe Douglas had a great draft class in 2021. So but it does hinge on the quarterback ultimately, the number 2 overall pick. And I don't even need him to become a man yet, but become like a teen. Like, become someone that has good weeks and bad weeks. Be a guy that mixes in those wow plays and makes you see, wow, this guy has the arm talent that few quarterbacks in the league have. And he just needs to rein it in and prove that he's coachable. So there's all these things that you need to see. And I think it's set up well for them now because they have found their stride with Mike LaFleur on the offensive side of the ball. We've seen there's some structure in place. Michael Carter, the running back, going out with an injury now is bad timing. But I still think Zach Wilson, enter an offense that should be able to move the ball, especially against the Texans. I agree, though. Come on now.
It's It's upstairs, though. It's a mental thing, and that happens with rookie quarterbacks. And so if he struggles down the stretch, like, I don't think it's anything physically. It reminds me of Eli Manning or Alex Smith, to think of some quarterbacks who ended up having good careers where they were just overwhelmed. They never quite understood the offenses that they were in as rookies, and they never got over it. It never got better. And so that could happen. I hope it doesn't happen, but it could.
All right, there you go. The AFC East in the rear view. Up next on the broadcast, we hit the AFC West, filled with all sorts of intrigue. The Chargers coming off a big Sunday night win. The Raiders saving their season on Thanksgiving. The Chiefs looking to defend that conference title. And also Teddy Bridgewater plays football. Gotta get your defense in. All right, the broadcast rolls on. We now hit the AFC West. Tons of intrigue here, Greggy. Start with those Raiders.
Love this Raiders performance on Thanksgiving, and I think this Raiders team is different. I know we've had fun with Derek Carr saying,
what a roller coaster.
We're not the old Derek, we're not the old Raiders. We're not going to fall apart at 5-2. And they might not make the playoffs, but I think this Raiders team is different just in the sense that Derek Carr is different. I think this is the best Derek Carr, and I know their offense slumped, and he's not going to overcome every problem that they have, but I think he's a top 10 quarterback. I don't think he's had the ups and downs that a lot of other quarterbacks have had, and when you give him a chance, he's going to be aggressive down the field. He's hit more downfield throws than anyone in the NFL this year.
Yeah, he's tied with Josh Allen on that front. I'm with you. He was a struggle for me to watch for a long time. The Raiders of this season are different, and it's not just entirely what's happening on the field. I think he is their unquestioned spiritual, emotional leader at this point. I mean, he's taken all the weight that they've gone through and basically said, put it on me. He is that guy, and his play has been up there to match that, and they are a fun offense to watch. I mean, they put Dallas in a fix yesterday.
I'm very concerned about this Darren Waller knee injury.
That's true.
As we're taping this, we're waiting to find out where his body is, but that is something big. If he exits the picture, I think they're cooked. That's how important he is to their offense. And Carr is just like one of those guys like Matt Money Smith on our power ranking show. It's the second time where the Raiders went into a slump, and he cited the Joey Bosa interview where he basically called Carr soft. And it feels like whenever Carr goes into a slump or the Raiders go into a slump, it's like, well, Derek Carr is not really that good. And that's a part of the problem here, too. And then he has a game like he did on Thursday, and he's like, oh, Derek Carr is actually good. And
It is a
it's
roller
just
coaster.
I never got to that point this year. I don't think he's been a roller coaster. In fact, I really think compared to almost any quarterback in the league, he's been the same guy each week, and different things around him have changed. Yeah, he hasn't been perfect. He's never going to be a top 5 guy, but I think he's really gone to another level. We are learning that Darren Waller has a strained IT band.
How many weeks out,
That's
Mark?
relatively good.
IT band, it's variable.
Relatively good.
Smart
Not
answer.
out for the season, so that's
Smart, it's just variable. That's the good answer there.
It could be up or down.
All right, Chargers. My question, okay? Sunday night, we were there in that building at SoFi. Can the defense be trusted when it matters? Because when you need to get a stop against the Steelers and modern-day Ben Roethlisberger, and you can't get it done, it makes me wonder again whether they're able to come together and take all these great parts they have and actually be a big-time defense. Because the offense has shown us that when it's in a top gear, it can play really well. But it also has been inconsistent. Sometimes you're going to need the defense to deliver big-time efforts. Can they do it when it comes down to it?
I look at them, they've got stars on their defense. They don't have a single guy ranked in the top 10 by PFF right now at their position. Brandon Staley wants to limit explosive plays down the field. They were doing that for the first couple months of the season. Since week 8, they've allowed 26 explosive plays. That's the most in the NFL. And, everyone talks about stopping the run. They've been a little bit better on that front here and there, but that's not fixed either.
Well, they're gotten worse in terms of defending the pass. And that's ultimately what Staley wants to do. And we just saw Asante Samuel Jr., who's been really important to them, making an interception on these highlights. He suffered his second concussion in less than a month, which is really serious. Joey Bosa was talking about that. We might not see him, Asante Samuel Jr., that is, for a while. Staley with the Rams, and man, it was a limited sample size, really got that defense to improve throughout the course of the season. No one was talking about them as one of the best defenses in the league last October, early November. So you got to hope that they improve, because this defense, no, I don't trust them at all. I don't think
So the time is now. So we're now, once you hit this post-Thanksgiving, like you turn it on or it's not going to happen. So hopefully, if you're a Chargers fan, you get the Broncos team that is very up and down itself offensively. Like, I'm not saying that they need to deliver a statement win, Greg, but a nice effort where the defense plays well, the offense scores points, you win by a couple touchdowns, and you go into December feeling like a real contender.
You lose this game to the Broncos, and then both these teams are in the AFC mix of like, yeah, you're fighting for a 7 spot, but we don't trust you. Mark doesn't care about you. You're not winning a Super Bowl.
No.
All right. Mark, on the Broncos.
The Broncos, we talk about Teddy Bridgewater every week on this show, but please, let's talk about the future. I just have to wonder, because teams at this point, realistically, things are changing for teams. You're planning for the future. Is Denver setting the table for a springtime coup d'etat? There are a number of teams out there that could be looking at Aaron Rodgers. Are you setting the table for Aaron Rodgers?
So we're turning the page on 2021. It's over.
I'm just saying that, I'm freezing what they might do between now and then and say, you have extended Cortland Sutton. You have extended Tim Patrick. You've got Devonta Williams in the backfield. Vic Fangio, look, at all the best to you. I don't think he fits as the long-term answer here. Are you creating an environment that tells Aaron Rodgers, or fill in the blank, but I think it would be Aaron Rodgers, and you say, look, we're going to go find the right young offensive coach for you, and you're going to come to Denver. The parts are in place. Let's roll. We got to get defense.
You're saying Pat Shurmur's not it? It's not Shurmur?
I'm saying Pat Shurmur is not it. I'm sure he's a nice man also.
How many teams is Teddy going to play on before his career is over?
12.
30? 31?
Well, he totally fits. It makes sense, because to me, he's that guy. He's the Dalton line. He's the in-between of a decent enough starter that upgrades a terrible situation, but not good enough to build around long term. I don't know about the coup d'etat, but I do put them in that spot of the most likely team to go get a quarterback.
That would be a coup d'etat.
Right. Russell Wilson, Deshaun Watson's going to be out there at some point, and Aaron Rodgers. Those 3 guys could be available.
Right. And that makes all the sense in the world for them to go down that road if they can make it happen. I guess that would be a coup d'etat if they...
Well, why is that? You'd be changing your division.
What does coup d'etat mean, though? I don't know.
In this sense, in the world of the pro football, it'd be a coup d'etat.
Isn't it a violent overthrow?
It wouldn't be like taking over Paris in the 1600s.
But who's overthrowing? So I think the general manager might be overthrowing the coaching staff and the quarterback position.
Or the post-Super Bowl 50 malaise that's settled over the organization. coup d'etat over that.
I mean,
Yeah,
not
okay,
for
over
nothing. Teddy's might lead them to the most wins they've had since that Super Bowl. That's for sure.
I would say give him the extension.
Yeah,
that would
Good
be.
thing Greg isn't the GM.
All right, Mark, finish up the division with the Chiefs.
How about this? Daddy Cool is on the scene.
So now we have a cool dad. Okay.
Cool
Well,
Daddy.
this is Daddy Cool. This is a little different. I don't know if you've
My
ever heard of.
dudes, you really put a lot of personality into your graphics. I need to step it up personally.
I think you do a great job, Greg. I don't know if you ever heard of Boney M. They were like a kind of a disco group back in the day in the 70s and 80s. That was the name of one of their songs.
You're
I'm
much
talking
older than
about
us.
Chris Jones. I wasn't listening to them consciously. I just know them.
You are older, though. We don't talk about it a lot, but there's an age gap.
You're our daddy.
Bring
cool.
it up 4 to 5 times every show.
Go ahead.
Because people would look at us. You look so great for your age, and they would think, oh, those 3 guys about the same age.
Yeah,
No,
he looks
Mark.
amazing.
I mean,
a little
relatively we are. But,
Mark's older.
Can we just talk about Chris Jones for a minute?
What time did you get
He
in the
has
office
been
today?
absolutely dominant this season. 4.5 sacks the last 3 games, leads the NFL in pressures since Week 8. The 3rd most batted passes. You know, it's like, oh, what's happening with Mahomes in the offense? By the way, it's this defense that changed the Chiefs.
Daddy Cool.
It absolutely
That
is.
is actual
And it
nickname, or
starts with him.
Did you make that?
I just thought that's the
Daddy
words
Cool.
that come to my
Do you ever
mind
go
when I
to
think of him.
Pro Football Reference, if you
Oh,
look
I don't
at
know if
players,
they've-
they have crazy nicknames that you would never
Let's
think
see.
were connected.
Let's see.
Let's look up Chris Jones, 2016.
By the way, Mark was here
2001.
so early. He told us there's no food at the normal cafeteria type
Right.
situation. Very useful. You showing up at 5:45 in the morning.
It
so
was
it helped us
7:15.
out.
But you are right, Greg. I did that to help you because if Greg doesn't get his banana
He
little
was
bowl
right.
of yogurt,
I
he
ate a
doesn't
little
function.
But you know
So-
what? We
That was
didn't
nice
know.
of you.
They got some catering in here. So one thing you can say about this new NFL network is they keep us well fed.
I mean, we have given the Chiefs 2 minutes
Don't
of
hug us, though.
ancient conversation.
they get a lot.
There's
from,
no doubt.
They get a lot.
Daddy Cool is an important member of that defense, but the big daddy on the other side, Mahomes, is still the key. They need to have that consistent offense.
That's fair.
You know.
Chris Jones.
Fair.
He's the man.
He got his worthy time in this
Good
segment. No doubt about
seg.
it.
Good seg. All right. Up next, the AFC North. Oh, Greggy. Ravens, Browns, Bengals, Steelers, 4 teams. They all get 2 minutes. Coming up next on the broadcast. All right, welcome back to the broadcast. It is time now to hit Mark Sessler's favorite division, the AFC North. So rugged. Greg, get us going with the Ravens.
The Ravens are a team that, to me, are different than previous Ravens teams we've seen because they're to find like weakness is there every week. It's not getting any better. They like cannot cover on the outside, and they love to blitz, and they think it's going to work, and it doesn't even work against Andy Dalton and the Bears. They are a team that if you can win on the outside with your wide receivers, you're going to lose. Like, and it hasn't gotten any better throughout the course of the season. They're 27th right now in DVOA. And I don't think the Browns are necessarily the team that should take advantage of that. That's the Browns' biggest weakness. But I don't know. I don't know if you're going to survive in the playoffs in the AFC against the Chiefs and the Bills if you can't cover on the outside.
Even when that wasn't the case, the Ravens were this team that, great regular season, gets bit in January with one thing or another. And it was the offense breaking down at times in the years past, but the defense was always there for you. There's only 2 teams in the league giving up more big plays on defense, to your point. I don't think Cleveland is the team to necessarily match up well with that, but someone will be.
Yeah, the Ravens are a tough team to figure out. Like, I have them at 13 in the power rankings this week, which is where I stick a team where I don't know what to make sense of them. Ravens fans fired up, think they should be top 10. I think you thought they should be top 10, Greg. But I'm like, man, do they just kind of feel like a well-coached team with a great kicker who've won a bunch of close games but are really kind of just totally middle of the pack? I wonder if
I feel like
that's
vulnerable.
Lamar is lifting them up more than he ever has. Now, he hasn't played as well overall in his last month of starts or so. He returns from the sickness this week for a big division game. You're nervous about it.
I mean, I think anyone would be nervous because Lamar Jackson at the height of his powers, it doesn't really matter everything else we're talking about. They'll find a way to score 35 points and
it is weird, though, because their defense normally gets better as the season goes on, and you just don't see it. I think people kind of overlooked that Marcus Peters injury as one that was really important for them early.
I mean, the Colts game, the Monday night Colts game, the Lions game, the Bears game. I mean, this team could easily be 4-6 right now. Easily. And it's a credit to them and the coaching and the talent to get to 7-3, but I don't think this is like a looming superpower, at least where they are right now. Mark, on your Browns.
Well, I mean, I think to the point of the Ravens, I feel like the Ravens always reveal Cleveland's character. I mean, you can go back to the good version of that when Baltimore was ripped from Cleveland's belly and became the Ravens. Cleveland, the city, rallied so hard to get a team back, to get a expansion team, but then look at everything that's happened since. But even just last year, it was we're going to absolutely clean up the floor with Cleveland early in the year. And then when the Browns had advanced and grown under Kevin Stefanski, you got that great Monday night game, but it was still telling you you're not quite there. And now you've got the Ravens this week, a bye week, and then the Ravens again. Cleveland's season, which has been so roller coastery, so up and down, comes down to this moment. I don't have a lot of confidence they can handle Baltimore in either game. And were they to lose both, it would say a lot about the Cleveland's faults right now.
Can you break this down for me just a little bit more? Like, let's say Ravens play really well, they win 27-10. What would that reveal about Cleveland's character?
Well, I think it says a lot about basically the heart of the Browns. They've never really measured up to Baltimore. There aren't that many victories outside of rare regular season victories where no matter how well Cleveland was playing, that Baltimore was not invincible.
Here's what it revealed.
They did it to Pittsburgh last year, not Baltimore.
They're not it. That it's not going to happen.
Exactly.
I'm with you. I could see, and I'd love to. I don't know what the win-loss record is. I have the game where Lamar's coming out of the bathroom. Obviously,
the potty game,
fresh in my mind. But it feels to me like Lamar could be their new Big Ben. You know, that record, that guy in the division that you can't overcome. Because Lamar Jackson against this defense, I just don't have a lot of faith.
Well, and the guy who was
Browns.
just behind Big Ben before that was Joe Flacco against the Browns. And we know those were terrible teams, but I'm just saying they've always been the big brother, yet they were ripped from Cleveland's belly. That doesn't make biological sense.
It's weird because they were an expansion team, and yet they still keep all the records of the Browns. But Ozzie Newsome was Mr. Brown and was running the Ravens. That is weird to me. It's a little weird.
Not. It's exactly
Why
what they were fighting for.
Why do they get to beat the Browns, but they were...
By the way, said it 2 weeks ago, and Baker stepped up against the Bengals. But again, this feels like a huge line in the sand game for Baker and where he is going forward in a primetime game against the Ravens when the world's kind of against him.
Alan Chris.
He needs to play well or things are not going to go well.
Ooh, I'm looking forward to this. We're going to be watching together in the film room. It's going to be good. Oof.
All right, up next, the Bengals, the Cincinnati Bengals. Time to show your stripes, okay? This is a team that's kind of tough one to figure out, right? Like we We saw what they did against the Raiders. That was a really important win in their season. We called it the Crossroads game. We called it the Uncle Charles Bowl. And then, of course, the Raiders, they go down a dark road. And then, of course, go to Dallas and win on Thanksgiving, which is just, that's so 2021. Cincinnati is still now waiting to play their next game since Week 11, and I just want to see them kind of put it together a little bit now and go on a little bit of a run and show us that that absolute meltdown that preceded their bye, the 2-week meltdown, was just a blip in the radar. Don't be average, be special, make Cincinnati proud.
Such a great division game, too, because everything in terms of young talent and excitement points towards Cincinnati in this game, and yet you still have faith that the old Steeler way will get in their way. This has been such a great rivalry. My only point on the show your stripes, like show us you've arrived, aren't they going to just be in this group? Like all these teams that we keep saying, like, let's see the real one. They'll probably just keep going back and forth, and we'll still be saying this in like week 16.
And I think it is progress compared to what we were asking Zach Taylor to do before the season. They've scored 30+ in 4 of 5 games. They have the best point differential of any team in the AFC North. I mean, that points to consistency. I know the defense melted so hard, but it's like, do I believe in Joe Burrow? Yes. Do I believe in Mixon? Yes, I do. It's like these parts on offense, and Jamar Chase, maybe, he's getting a lot more attention, but he's still explosive, and they've got the parts to take down Pittsburgh.
And the Steelers are a great opponent to draw when you're building off a good game on defense like Cincinnati had against the Raiders. Big Ben and that offense is not explosive. You should be able to dictate terms somewhat if your defense can play. So stack a win here. Get a huge division win. Give yourself some space and kind of put yourself in the conversation as a potential division winner. Because I think they are. I think they could be a 10-7 type team.
Yeah.
But they need to win a game like this.
You can't lose at home to the Browns and Steelers in a row and be taken.
No, you're telling us we don't want to be there.
Right. Finally, Steelers. Get well soon, defense. Man, that was tough to watch against the Chargers when you're missing so many key players. T.J. Watt, who's the key to everything, he's not there. Minka Fitzpatrick, he's not there. Joe Hayden, he's not there. And you just saw play after play, and you're thinking to yourself, man, Cam Hayward's playing his butt off when he's not punching the opposing quarterback. But he can't do it alone. So get these guys back on the field because, yes, the Steelers' offense is not dynamic. They're never going to lift and kind of carry this team. So the defense has to be consistently excellent, but it can only be that way when they're healthy.
And it hasn't been. Like, they're 25th in defensive DVOA. And the Ravens, to our point before, are 27th. That's how different this AFC North is than if you just plugged in now and just assume these teams are the same. They kind of need the offense to step it up. Even with those guys, that's who they were on defense.
They weren't 27th though. They're terrible without him. You put Watt back in, not even on the injury report this week. That's fantastic. Fitzpatrick is back from the COVID list. Joe Hayden's questionable, but he was limited in practice. It sounds like he'll play. They got a shot. Like, that's their defense. They've never gotten Stephon Tuitt back. That would have been nice. Alualu's been out forever, so injuries have been a huge part of it. There's something about Mike Tomlin more than ever this year. I just feel like he's got this like Belichickian vibe when he speaks. I believe it, and I think he's got them believing it, and I just think they're going to have this good finish to the season where they make the playoffs, and everyone's like, hey, one of the best coaching jobs Mike Tomlin's ever done. We know they're not going to win the Super Bowl, but he's good.
Guy from Brooklyn saying that.
This does feel like, because I don't think there's a big separation with these 4 teams, that we could be going into Week 18 with all the teams having a shot either to win the division or make the playoffs. And it ends up one of those situations, like where no one ever really separates from the pack. But that's kind of contingent on my theory that the Ravens some regression happens and they come back to the pack a little bit. But I got the Bengals this week.
I locked up the Steelers, so good luck with that.
Oh, ooh, interesting.
I mean, I'm saying that to me because I'll probably lose. But.
All right, moving on. One more division to go. It is the AFC South.
Oh.
And we're going to find out who gets how many minutes. Do you get the 2 minutes? Do you get the 1 minute? That's a tough sitch.
Some of it depends on how much we were honking earlier in the show.
It always does.
Jaguars, I don't know if they deserve it.
All right, it's the AFC South. Why do they always come up last on this program? I don't know. Maybe it's on them to move their way up the pecking order. Let's start, Greg, with the leading Tennessee Titans.
I mean, the Titans have done everything they can
Sure.
to get up in the.
But do they excite you right now either?
Not really, and that's why there's a lot this week riding on the old Tickle Monsters. If you don't know about the Tickle Monsters, that's that big front four. Jeffrey Simmons,
I don't think that's been
Landry.
rubber stamped quite yet.
Well, I'm
the opposite.
trying to make it ride. You know, our buddy Justin Graver, he named them the Tickle Monsters. They don't have anything left right now other than the Tickle Monsters. So they dominate against the Patriots offensive line this week, and you got a shot. Otherwise, forget about it.
And just to be clear, Justin Graver is someone here that works with us at the NFL. He's a big Titans fan, has a Titans podcast.
Context.
Floated out Tickle Monsters as a nickname. Jeffrey Simmons, among others, said absolutely not. So, Greg, it's very divisive. They don't even want this nickname.
My point is, like, it's their time. Like, if they're going to earn this sort of nickname that you remember forever, then you got to dominate
Well,
this
how about
game.
this?
Because it's strength on strength, them versus the Patriots O-line.
And one of my favorite playoff games in the last 15 years was when Tennessee went up to New England and ended the Tom Brady era on a Saturday night at Foxborough. Oh, magnificent. And they aren't going to be afraid. They're not going to be spooked like so many other teams against New England. But at the same time, it does feel like the Patriots have caught the Titans at a very good time. I don't know how they move the ball. The Tickle Monsters can have a nice game on defense, but unless they take over the game, unless they force game-changing turnovers and they get a spike play on special teams, I just don't see how the Patriots lose against this version of the Titans. Maybe this is like a show-me Ryan Tannehill game, like coming off 4 picks where everyone's saying you're exposed when you don't have Derrick Henry and blah, blah. Maybe he shut some people up.
To your anti-Patriots or whatever Patriots thing you got going on, they keep catching teams at the right time. There's another example right here with the Titans.
Right. But I will say, even against my own defense here, that people have been saying that about the Patriots for 20 years, that they get lucky.
Well,
I do think Mac Jones has been sped up against pressure quite often. Even in that Atlanta game, he made some pretty big mistakes against pressure. They got after him. Titans could do that.
Mark on the Colts.
all right, I would just say this. HBO is freaking out right now. All right, listen, Hard Knocks in season, the Indianapolis Colts. You've had The Sopranos, you've got Succession going on, but this right now, they did not realize when they announced this. I'm going to be real. It's like I was like, how much content is too much content? But it's 2021. There is no cap on content.
No.
There's endless. It's the NFL. There's no chill.
It's an open fire hose.
You just do it, and
the Colts are on HBO.
They are on HBO. It's the in-season Hard Knocks, and I was like, when they announced the team, my initial reaction months ago was like, really? Like, I want to see more Carson Wentz and all what else is going on. But right now, you've got a white-hot Colts team. And can you imagine HBO's cameras focusing on this matchup with glossy Tom Brady and the Buccaneers coming to town? This is a season-altering showdown for Indianapolis. I like it.
You'll get your premium cable package. Get your grandparents' password. Find a way to check out this premium cable because they're a fun team right now. And really, the storyline around this team is Jonathan Taylor's ascension to super-duper star status and that carrying this team. But it's not just him. They've gotten better in all facets. And this is a great matchup this week to kind of see where they are.
And the Bucs' rush defense is traditionally so good. Vita Vea is expected to return, so it's going to be tough for Taylor. But to me, their story is about something more than just like football. It's about seeing a podcaster named Mark Sessler who randomly drew what team he would now be a fan for as kind of his second team, and he got the Colts. And at that point, he said, this team is so boring. This is the last team I ever want to watch. There's nothing here. And since then, they're like the best team in the NFL. They took motivation from you, Mark.
They should thank me for that. I mean, I've made a series of hideous mistakes. That was another one. So there you go.
Speaking of Superstar Club, I have that little off-season think piece that I write. And Jonathan Taylor is not in the club. He will be in the club. It's a zero-sum game. Somebody's got to come out. I think it's Zeke Elliott's going to have to slide out of the Superstar Club.
Well,
JT.
Saquon wasn't in there, was he?
Saquon was in the Superstar Club.
You got to get him.
A couple, I think Ubers have arrived for a couple of these players.
All right. I'll think about that.
Okay,
Texans.
you think about it.
The Texans, hey, listen, good news if you like things to go well on Sundays. The 2021 Texans are expected to win on Sunday. They're facing the Jets, and the desert odds makers say, hey, come over to this side. We're laying some wood over on Texans Corner. So I guess that's progress.
What a stink guy this is. You're indignant that your team is an underdog against the Texans.
I don't know what else to tell you other than I didn't think there would be any scenario where the Texans would be favored the rest of the season. It speaks to the darkness of the Jets and the fandom. But, Tyrod Taylor's at least made them look credible as an NFL team since his return.
It's more about the Jets than the Texans, I think, in this situation, which to you, Dan, a longtime Jets fan, is annoying. They've been much better with Tyrod Taylor. But, last week was about 5 turnovers, 5 takeaways, and they had like 300 yards less offense than the Titans. That's not necessarily a formula, the second part to win.
Their last 2 games feel quite fluky. They have 10 turnovers in the last 2 weeks. That is more than the Jets have all season, but it's also more than the Steelers, the Ravens, the 49ers. You're going to be great if you force 5 turnovers a game. I don't know. That just feels a little random.
Jets
and you got a big
Hawks.
Rainstorm and Ryan Tannehill trying to come back. I don't know. I'm not buying in.
I have this weird feeling that the Jets are going to romp this weekend. I don't know why.
Yeah, lock them up.
And then you could play this back and make fun of me on next week's show. But the Jets are going to cook up those Texans. And by the way, if that happened to Houston, it's not the worst thing. We're building for the future anyway there. You got your second win of the season. Pop out that 2-14. Let's take a walk to the draft.
Right, because the Jets are about today.
Wait, do the Texans have their own draft pick? They finally get one
back,
back,
do. I think
right?
it's back.
So you kind of want it. This is a big game for the draft.
Well, they could be getting a lot more,
This will decide which order these 2 teams are in. Because the team that loses isn't winning 2 more to get over the other team and get that tiebreak.
By the way, look at this. The AFC South on this program everybody got 2 minutes.
Wow.
Up next, the Jaguars.
That is progress for the Jaguars.
3 teams got 2 minutes. The Jaguars now obviously get 2 minutes. You want to wait a second.
Oh, wait. That was the old okie doke.
This has been turned off inside their franchise building, no doubt about it.
I guess it's good because it goes with the graphic we got here. It is getting harder to talk about the Jaguars. Just what do you say at this point? It's like Urban Meyer just speaking about this offense and commiserating.
Hey, what's up with this Urban Meyer guy? Is he cut out for the pros? All right, we can have that combo again?
Another guy from deep Jamaica, New York.
I thought Trevor Lawrence played one of his better games last week, and they didn't score a touchdown until garbage time. In 3 of their 4 games since the bye, they have not scored a touchdown until garbage time.
Well, what is Urban Meyer selling and what has he produced? I think they don't add up. That's the problem. And
wait, you called him a berserker last week.
Yeah, I did. But a berserker doesn't show up. I didn't say a berserker was on a 7-game win streak. They occasionally
berserker
create
that's going to give trouble to teams.
They were a lot more.
A berserker can turn on itself, and that's maybe what's happening.
They were a lot more competitive with the Colts than the Bills were. So hey, there.
Trevor Lawrence it's been a bummer his rookie season. He's got 8 touchdown passes and 356 attempts. His QBR of 35 places him 29th among qualified starters. Guy needs help.
Not this season.
Good Subway ad though. Air flowing.
Yeah. All right, up next on the broadcast. Yes, Thanksgiving is in the rear view, but it's still the Thanksgiving holiday weekend. We share what we're thankful for in the NFL season to date. Oh, yeah. Thanksgiving in the rear view, but we're still thankful for all that we have. So let's talk about it. Greg, what are you thankful for in this NFL season so far?
I don't put on my Homer hat enough, really, on this show, but I'm thankful for Mac Jones. I got to admit, when they drafted Mac Jones, I was like, as a Patriots fan, I thought, can't we just get an athletic quarterback? It's like 2021. I want someone that runs around and is fun to watch. Mac Jones is not that guy, but you know what? He is a lot of fun to watch. Reminds me of a young Phillip Rivers. Love this kid. Love how he's getting better. He's made this season.
I mean, you should still have Tom Brady, and if you don't have Tom Brady, you should have Lamar Jackson, but you don't have either. So you got Mac Jones. That's cool.
I'll take it. I love it. I'm thankful. He's getting better. His ceiling is higher than you think.
Greg went through that very tough Patriots season last year. We all felt for him emotionally, and now he's back on the
5 minutes
team.
he did in 07 on 42 against the Giants.
How about the 2008 Matt Castle season? They didn't even make the playoffs at 11 and 5.
Only 11 wins.
A lot of pelts on your belt there.
All right. Pelts on the belt, Mark.
That means
Pelts on the belt.
I'm thankful for, we saw a lot of this on Thanksgiving, celebrating John Madden and like what he meant. And if you're our age, like we got a lot of John Madden growing up, and I think he changed broadcasting. I always wonder, like, would he fit today? Where he's got the turducken, and he brought this kind of the way he was with the Oakland Raiders is the way he was on air. He just made football kind of fun. He'd bring you in. He was very human about it. I don't know if he'd dig this like PFF era that we're in. I'm not sure that would be his ball of wax. But this was the dude. I don't think there's any equivalent to him.
PFF.
Am I right? Do you think that he just came from a different place a little
John
bit?
Madden tearing apart a turkey on live television.
Like an animal's
to
body.
Al Michaels, I don't want to say disgust, but Michaels, who's a very refined individual, he goes to like Nobu and Malibu and everything all the time, and he's watching Madden tear apart turducken with his bare hands.
Kind of forgot Madden was on Monday Night Football too. He had so many different lives. Different impacts, not just the video games. I love the John Madden books. You want to learn what football was like back in the 80s and 90s in a light and fun way. Read Madden books.
Well, I know you haven't, but have you ever had turducken?
No.
I would love to try it.
I'd love to try it.
Has anyone ever attempted it that you know? I don't know. Anyway, I am thankful. Listen, I'm thankful for the chaos in the NFL this season so far. And parity rules. It's a crazy, unpredictable season. I wouldn't want it like this. And Mark, I think you made a similar point a couple weeks ago. I wouldn't want it like this every year. Okay?
I'm sure I did.
Because I do like the idea of like two great teams, for instance, in a conference. Like I can't wait till the championship Sunday. They are the cream of the crop. And if they get knocked out earlier in the playoffs, it's a lot of fun. None of that's going to happen this year, I don't think. I think it's just going to be such a unpredictable season that any team that gets into the dance has a chance to go on a run. And I'm thankful for that because it leads to better numbers on my power rankings copy.
Do you think this is an aberration?
The metrics are better because more people are like involved.
That is interesting. It reminds me a little bit of, 09 to 11, like the Cardinals made the Super Bowl, the Ravens won the Super Bowl, a lot of 6 seeds, random teams. Some of those teams are
I don't think this is going away, though. I think this is essentially the aberration will be when there are 2 dominating teams.
Wow. Sestradamus with a look into the future.
Chaos forever. It's a shocking take by us.
You should have seen the power rankings number me and Money did on Tuesday. Huge number. Huge number. All right, before we say goodbye, weekend vibes. What do we want to share before we go off on our own?
But our ratings.
Look at his pin.
What?
All right, before we say goodbye, we share some weekend vibes. Greggy, get us going.
My vibe, harkening back to Thanksgiving, it's just a message that Andy Dalton taught all of America on Thursday. Just stay in the picture. You know, you don't know when your moment holding up a silver thing with the hair and the beard and Tom Rinaldi and the big smile. You can't tell me that's not a lifelong memory. It's a lesson forever. Just stay in the picture. Stay in the mix.
He's looking good.
And you can get opportunities like us having this show. You know?
Absolutely. Stay in the picture. I love Andy Dalton, the best backup quarterback in the league. Better than Colt McCoy. Mark, you're up next.
Well, I would just say there was a survey that came out this week about the hottest coaches in the NFL, and I am appalled at the results. I don't know how they came to this, but I'm starting right here. Kevin Stefanski, number 7. We got a picture of Kevin Stefanski, don't we?
This is mean.
This is absurd. That's Kevin Stefanski, by the way. Looks a little bit like a George Clooney to me, and he's sitting at number 7 behind a bunch of bros. Totally disagree. Appalling survey. I want a deep study on how this was conducted. Not happy.
This is something that you're legitimately upset about because you've been on this Stefanski thing forever. You got a shot of Salah, who, by the way, finished 3rd. Got the bronze medal in a big spot.
Right, like tell me who in front of him that you think is.
I like Salah. It all comes down to it's you know, eye of the beholder. I'm not saying Salah's not hot.
Man, how about Belichick cracking the top 10? You know, there was a lot of like 60-something Bostonian women that had a couple of wines before filling.
They like power. That's what they like. Let's close it out with, Raiders, Cowboys. The only thing that was bad about that Thursday game was the 28 penalties. How about this? If they ever met in the Super Bowl, and again, anything could happen this year, Purge Super Bowl. You know that movie franchise? One night a year to keep society in order. There are no rules. Every man for himself. Crime is legal. No penalties.
Ooh.
No rules. 60 minutes of football. How about that?
You're talking the Raiders language. No penalties?
Absolutely. The officials don't even need to come to SoFi.
It's ingenious. I love it.
All right. Enjoy the football this weekend, everybody. Till next week.